Hello folks. So we continue with a series on each planet in different rashis. So I'll approach each zodiac sign and talk about what it means for you. So today we're going to talk about Saturn's placement in your chart. Yeah, let's get started. So what is Saturn anyway? Let's try to understand this first. Saturn represents change. It represents change, sometimes forced change, some leading to growth and some leading to loss and destruction. All types of change, right? And this is why Saturn is the Karaka of the Dushtana houses, 6, 8, and 12. Karaka meaning significator for those who are new to astrology. So 6, 8, 12, Dushtana houses are also called the houses of suffering, loss, inevitable change. But we also experience deep transformation that pushes us towards purification, towards self-awareness. Saturn represents our fears, our doubts, and can reveal our self-serving behavior that leads to our self-undoing at times. Shani is also our karma, right? It is the ruler of the 10th house. So it's the actions that we take to help ourselves build stability, financial success, strong connections. Taking responsibility for our actions, taking the right actions. And our career path can also be seen from Saturn's placement in our chart. The repercussions of our actions, reward and punishment, can manifest during Saturn's transits, right? During Saturn's dasha. It is manifestation. Basically, it is a manifestation of that karmic imprint in our minds, right? That we may have carried forward from many lifetimes. And that's what's coming through. So where does Saturn sit in your chart? What houses does it rule in your chart? This is where you can see that karma play out. And it's our own karmic. Like it's the stuff that we're hanging on to, right? It's the stuff that we're hanging on to, whether it's past life, whether it's this life. A well-placed Saturn, above all, will give us the resilience and the strength to deal with any challenges that life throws us. This is why, you may have heard, I don't know, but I've certainly heard this time and time again by good astrologers. They will say that if you have a fantastic shani placement, then the rest will all work itself out. This is the power of Saturn. And this is the key. A dignified Saturn will give you resilience. If well placed, it will give you the resources to deal with the challenges, right? The ability to bounce back from adversity and hardships. This is a boon with a good Saturn placement. It will open doors to the right connections at the right time in order to obtain what we need, in order to reach some of our goals, our wishes, our desires. It will help you take measured and practical steps toward your goals. Saturn in dignity will help us stick through tasks with perseverance. Right? Your ability to stick through, like, for example, good healthy habits, routines, consistency. That can be seen with a dignified Saturn placement. Of course, it will also show us our limits, give us the ability to work within them to achieve our goals. Now, Vata is the element associated with Saturn for this reason, which is air, right? Air is boundless. It allows us to travel and in this way to reach far and to aim high, thereby achieving heights. There's a fateful feeling with Saturn, though. Where Saturn is and what Saturn rules, we can feel trapped. We can feel imprisoned. Where we feel like we don't have any control. There's a lack of will. There's inevitable change. That will work side by side with your Saturn placement. And it's not to do with maturity. This is just your placement that you have to, work through in this incarnation, like your entire life, right? When does it get activated? During Dasha. But it doesn't mean that maturity means that it will take away Saturn's influence necessarily, right? The life significations of Saturn. Let's talk about that for a minute. That's workers. We say underprivileged people, but really it's the common man, really. Like, it's not just underprivileged people, right? It's the masses. It's also old people. It's people that work for you, your subordinates, your servants, if you have servants. It's small pets. It's animals. Why do we denote animals also in, as a significator of what Saturn represents? Is because it's where you, like, it's the beings, it's the living beings that can feel powerless, right? Saturn's placement will give us clues about our lifespan, our career, for sure, obviously, our health, our losses. Are we inclined to take actions for the benefit of others or just for the benefit of ourselves? How is our karma playing out? Not only is Saturn the Garka of the 6, 8, 12, but it also rules the 10 and 11 houses. Yes? Making it extremely powerful, right? The 10th is the highest Kendra house. 11th is the highest Trikon. 11th is the highest Skama house. The highest Upachaya house, rather. Right? Very powerful houses, the 10 and 11. Now, when I talk about where Saturn is in your birth chart, which sign it is, do check the D1, do check the D9 placement of Saturn to understand how it is functioning. Also check for D60 for further clues. D9 is that evolved, purest vibration, right, of our chart. And D1 is how that planet has manifested in the material world. The best placement for Saturn are the air signs, because that's where it easily expresses its energy. Yeah. And of course, please do share your comments and your experiences with your Saturn placement. Yeah. So let's discuss. Aries. Well, this is of course considered to be Saturn's debilitated position. Not considered to be, it is Saturn's debilitated position, right? It's in enemy sign here. Saturn doesn't have any harmony with the fire signs. It doesn't do well in the fire signs. But being that Mars is the ruler here, this placement can make you tough. You'll be presented with obstacles, reversals in life, and this will force you to be resourceful and push through. This is especially the case if Mars is well placed in your chart. If Mars is not in dignity, then this is problematic, actually. Here with this placement, you want a power position and you want to be respected. You want to be respected, you want to be seen, right? Because the first house, this is a natural first house, so the Garka is the sun. You want status, you want power, but you may be seeking you may be seeking this in unethical and forceful ways. because this placement can give a very stubborn personality. So in Aries, it will impact your longevity because Saturn is the Karaka for lifespan. And it is debilitated here, right? It could also very well be that your old age years just drag on, right? So there can be a greater chance of physical ailments in that way. It can make one appear to be older than their age. This placement is akin to Saturn in the first house, so it will certainly bring health issues during Saturn Bhukti. Health-related issues can be there. Because Saturn is the Vata element, it can bring problems with the lungs. Right? It also represents Apanvayu, which is the power to excrete. Right? So it can, this placement can cause indigestion, problems with excretion, gas. Right? So not just physical issues. Not just physical health, not just physical health issues, but there can also be emotional pain with this signature of Saturn, right? So breathing exercise, very helpful for this Saturn placement. Saturn will show you the areas where you will have to work hard because you neglected them in past lives, right? Saturn in Aries can also mean that you've mistreated and exploited underprivileged folks, subordinates, people that work for you, servants, whatever it is in your past lives, right? Now you have the opportunity to reverse this by paying attention to the masses, ensuring that you don't mistreat those that are below you in status or position. People who do have Saturn and Aries tend to be very much concerned about status and position, actually. This placement will make you work hard physically, and by doing so, you can influence the masses or the underprivileged people, right? So there is, a way to reverse the negativity. This placement can make you impatient. You may take shortcuts. You may turn to unethical practices to achieve your goals. For one reason, because you face a lot of obstacles with Saturn and Aries. And you tend to put your energy into things that don't matter. Actually, you could be competing, you could be fighting with others where it doesn't really count. So watch for that. And in the end, you'll kind of like exhaust yourself with nothing to show for it. Career problems will most definitely manifest with the Saturn placement. It'll be difficult to build a lasting career. You may go from job to job. Right? You may also get into fights with your superiors, and here you don't want to accept defeat. You can blame others for your situation. More often than not, you don't get the support you need, and you don't know how to ask for it either. You also have difficulty trusting others, and can feel as if you're like under constant threat with this position. It can make you forceful with others, imposing your rules and principles on them. If Saturn is Lagna Lord, then be mindful of doing things in an unethical way, taking shortcuts, as this will backfire on you. You can be very self-critical with this placement, right? Self-worth is low. In fact, you can be suspicious of others who may compliment you or who may help you. It's kind of similar to a Mars-Saturn conjunction in the sense that you can feel as if you're accelerating at times, putting on the brakes at the same time, right? It's hard to move forward, to achieve anything on time. You can feel inhibited with this placement and fear going after what you want. So here the lesson is to be courageous, right? Not to fight for petty matters, but learn to fight fair and in a meaningful way. The karmic lesson here is to face and conquer your fears. Be assertive, yet balance this with consideration for others. Okay, Saturn and Taurus. This is a friendly sign for Saturn, unlike Aries. Venus is not only friend of Saturn, but it's also guru for Saturn, right? Saturn gets exalted. in Venus' sign and does well. Actually, Saturn does well in the earth signs, and the earth element is suitable for Saturn's, to express Saturn's energy. An environment of Taurus is very suitable for Saturn, right? It's an earth sign, it's a fixed sign, there's a friendly ruler. Earth tends to preserve things. Certainly here, because it's a fixed sign that we're talking about. And these qualities are seen in Saturn as well. Saturn's Mudra cone is 10 signs away from Taurus, so it's an excellent placement for career growth and wealth. Wealth that you build slowly, or it could also be family wealth that you're in charge of. That's supported with this placement. Saturn in Taurus will help you save money, and it will help you preserve your assets for long term. Right? With this Saturn placement, you're a self-made person. For you, living outside of your birth or childhood country will prove better for you to achieve success. You're attracted to classical fashion, to art, to beauty. You'll also be attracted to old architecture and places. This placement gives very refined and elegant taste, including with clothes, with food, with art, with your surroundings. You can be restrained in physical pleasures. So although you love good food, you won't go overboard with it, right? It's also a good placement for finances. But in early life, you can struggle with money. Once Saturn matures in mid-30s, you'll be able to build at that time. Yeah? There can be a deep fear of poverty making you frugal with money. So you tend to buy what you need. You're not lavish with spending. You'll be disciplined and you'll be organized with your work and with your money. You may find it difficult to let go of things, so you can be a hoarder as well. Right? This applies to negative emotions and to negative thoughts also. So be watchful there. But you have a live and let live philosophy to life. You will take time to open up to others. You're tolerant, you tend to be well liked by other people. If no affliction, then there's a tendency to be loyal and stick to what you know and stick to what you have. This Saturn placement will slow down the ability to quickly rise and grow. Rather, it will be a slow and steady rise in life. But what you achieve, you can make it last because it's a position of durability. You can have good work ethic with this Saturn placement, and you'll make wise choices with career, with money. You may be a workaholic, right? At the very least, you enjoy your work. You can work quite diligently to obtain financial freedom, and you take your work seriously. And you show professional grace in your career life as well. You can attract wealthy partners, but before Saturn's maturity, this can be a signature for sorrow and disappointment in relationship. Yeah. And it can bring relationship partners that are either unsuitable or cruel in some way before Saturn's maturity, before your mid-30s. If Saturn is sitting with Venus, this is even more the case. Well-placed Saturn can give the highest vibration for Saturn's Garaka, which we spoke about, right? Like stability, like resilience, ability to overcome challenges. And you will see that with this placement. This Saturn placement gives a pleasant personality, though you can be quite reserved, right? You're not one to be outspoken and make the first move. If it's an afflicted Saturn here, you can be a shopaholic. You can have eating disorders. With this Saturn placement, if it's working well, simplicity will lead to happiness and peace. So simplify where you can. Right? So keep what you need. Don't go overboard with material acquisition, for example. You can experience gains from land, crops grown under the earth. Dealing with real estate, old houses, antiques, jewelry, art can prove to be materially beneficial for you. The karmic lesson with this placement involves finding security within yourself rather than through money, rather than through family, right? The lesson here is to love yourself, value yourself. So, what if you have Saturn in Gemini? Well, this is Mercury's house, and Mercury is in harmony with Saturn. They are friends. Not only that, but air is a good environment for Saturn, right? Because Saturn is also Vata. From Gemini, the Multrikon sign of Saturn, which is Aquarius, is in trine. Another reason that this is a good placement. Gemini is the natural third house. Third house is our subconscious. So this placement can make you inclined to negative self-talk, right? You can have a critical nature with this placement. If afflicted, you can also make false promises and generally have a tendency to lie. At the least, this placement will cause anxiety and overthinking, seeing the worst in a situation. You may also have attracted those that bully you in your early years. Gemini is also where desire starts. It's the first gamma house. If Saturn is strongly placed here, for instance, maybe it's with Venus or with another benefic like Mercury, it shows someone who is quite sensual. You can be in a technical field with this placement. You can be good in sales and marketing if you have Saturn in Gemini. You can also be good in writing fields, right? Especially if it's writing about technical or scientific subjects. You will be able to secure a good education with this placement and can be an avid reader and highly skilled. You'll be keen on making connections and meeting people. You don't like to work alone with this placement. You can have multiple talents, but lack the ability to be focused. Communications and speech can be difficult if this is an afflicted Saturn. You tend to replay your conversations and wonder if you said the right thing, did the right thing. You may get stuck on the small details of the conversation rather than seeing the big picture. This is especially the case if Mercury is not in good condition. If it's strong, then you can be a skilled writer and have an artistic talent such as drawing, sculpting, or painting. This placement gives you a curious nature and it will help you to assess all the options before making decisions. It can be a good placement for frequent travel, especially work-related travel. This Saturn placement can give a tendency toward gossip also. Depends on overall chart, of course. You can also be a victim of gossip. Relationships with siblings can be difficult with this placement. There can be too much competition or conflict, right? There can be distant with siblings as well. Competition could be sparked by your jealousy and envy of others, including your siblings. Excellent placement for dealing with competitors. You can make good use of this in your business dealings. Here, your main focus tends to be to destroy your enemies, right? The karmic lesson is to cultivate focus and depth here. Listen actively and communicate clearly with others. Cancer. So this is not the best Saturn placement. It's sixth from its Multrikon, and it can bring illnesses in its dasha or antardasha. Childhood years can be difficult with this placement. You may not have received the emotional nourishment that you needed. You could have felt alone, misunderstood, abandoned. You may have experienced poverty in your early years, or at the very least, very humble beginnings. Your mother may have been quite frugal with money, so you might hoard it for fear of losing it, right? She may have been a strict disciplinarian. This placement can increase fear. It can give a fear of losing family, money, wealth, any sort of security. You may therefore become a workaholic. But if Saturn is connecting with the 2nd or 11th house, then it's a good placement for wealth. You can attract jealousy and envy, especially in your work environment. But later in life, you can go into business for yourself, which is beneficial for you. Be watchful of food you eat, as there can be food poisoning with this placement. Also, fatty foods can have an adverse effect on the heart, and cancers or chest area. You can be overly emotional with this placement. There can be too much attachment to your things, your home, your mother. You tend to hold on to old things, and therefore you will clutter your environment. Important to see placement of moon to see how this signature is working out in your chart, right? This is the key, moon being the ruling planet. Also check the 4th house, is it afflicted? And then it will show the negative sides of this placement. Important to do pranayama, breathing exercises to relieve problems with this placement. You will at some point be attracted to occult studies, astrology, mystical side of life. This placement can take you away from your birthplace, and you will be more successful away from your birth country, actually. Cancer is a sign of emotions, so this placement can make you anxious. Thinking can be negative. So take care of the mental health. And you may feel that people don't understand you. And so therefore you can become antisocial later in life. In relationships, it can mean that you find it difficult to give and receive love, right? It's also hard to feel intimacy and closeness in romantic relationships with this placement. It's hard to bond with another person. You can, however, be a good parent. And if you have children, they will mean everything to you. Right? This placement is also good for taking care of animals. You'll probably at some point do selfless service, seva, and move towards spirituality, which is a good thing. You're there for others, but you find it hard to ask for help when you need it. You also tend to be too hard on yourself. And there's not enough self-love with this placement. Here the lesson is to build your inner strength, to love yourself, to be in touch with your emotional health. The karmic lesson involves learning to trust and emotionally open up. Learn to nurture yourself without becoming overly dependent. So let's talk about Saturn in Leo. Saturn in Leo is an opposite from its Multrikon position. So it's completely out of sync with its nature here. Right? This is a royal sign of the sun, its arch enemy. So with this placement, you may have had a difficult relationship with a father. 5th house is Purva Punya, results of good karma. Here there can be bad karma that will come to the surface, and this can be connected to your children. You will have a lot of responsibilities with respect to your children, and you may feel overwhelmed. It will be difficult for you to express yourself for fear of rejection, for fear of criticism. You want to be noticed, and you want to be a leader, but deep fears hold you back with this position. This is a good placement for high authority positions in the government sector, if it's not further afflicted, right? You tend to be creative and you have a business acumen. It can make you very proud of your achievements and that of your family, but can show a very egoistic personality. You can also have struggles with authority if the sun's placement is out of balance or afflicted in your chart. You can also show like a childlike rebellion when you do not get your way. If it's a good sun placement, you will want to earn your place in life rather than taking shortcuts. But you do have the tendency to look down on those who take shortcuts based on family favors or society, right? Karmic challenges will arise from past lives where you may have overly asserted your position. Or maybe you have used your family or social connections to assert authority over others. Right? Watch for improper use of power, position, and willpower, because this can lead to rigid thinking as well. It's a placement which can make you a dictator, actually. Egocentric behavior is common with this placement. If it's a well-placed sun, then it can bring to you leadership qualities to help others. With Saturn in Leo, you can have a difficult relationship with a father, maybe a disturbed family background. There can be issues with chest pains, heart problems can result with this placement. Here, Saturn is a fire sign, and therefore it can lead to a bad temperament as well. As Saturn is an Aries planet, it aggravates the fire element. Right? It really comes down to the placement of the sun and the strength of the sun in your chart. Right? In a strong horoscope, then you will have great respect toward the masses, towards the underprivileged. And this is why, like just one placement we cannot say. I mean, this is just a general reading, but we cannot say just with one placement. The overall strength of the horoscope has to be seen. Your Lagna Lord, your moon, Dharma-Trikona, what's going on? What's going on with Jupiter? And if it's a dignified sun placement, then you can be a hard worker yourself with this placement. To trigger the blessings of this placement, it's best to treat your subordinates well. Or those that are somehow like don't have the privileges that you do, right? With this placement, there's a fear of embarrassing situations or your secrets being revealed. You struggle with issues of pride and need for external validation. The karmic lesson here is to find joy in authentic self-expression without the need for applause or attention. So, what if you have Saturn in Virgo? This is 8 from its Mul-Trikona position, so that in that way it's a difficult Saturn placement, though it is ruled by Mercury, which is in harmony with Saturn. Virgo is also the Mul-Trikona sign of Mercury, so this placement will bring out the best qualities of Mercury, actually, in that way. So indirectly, it's a boon. It can lead to a successful career based on your ability to communicate, based on your ability to connect with the right people. You're resourceful with this placement, and you can make prudent use of your resources. The intellectual ability of Mercury makes you very practical as well, to see where, if it's a dignity, that Mercury in your chart. Saturn does well in earth signs, but will make you work hard for results. You have minute eye for details. You're an excellent planner, excellent organizer, and you have good management skills as well. However, you can be critical and demand others to conform to your high standards. This criticism could have originated in your family as well. Maybe you grew up in a critical family, right? This can result in you aiming to be a perfectionist. But this placement can invite competition, enemies, disease, right? So if it's a well-placed Mercury, you'll know how to solve problems that come your way. This can make you a good doctor, healer, lawyer as well. You're good at coming to others' rescue, and you're good at helping others with their problems. So it's a good placement for being service-orientated. Service profession would suit you well. You're detailed-orientated and analytical. This position will give you also a very good work ethic, which leads to success, right? It can lead to be more focus on your career life rather than your family life, though. It's a great position to have your own business, to work independently. If you ever thought about doing that, you can achieve success with stocks, with trading, market trading, shares. But this placement can give a difficult relationship with a mother, right? But Mercury's position is important to see if that's happening. Digestive problems can be there because you don't eat healthy. So this is an area to improve. For you, intelligence is a very important quality in others that you look for. You love working, you're a good problem solver, you're good at utilizing limited resources in a good way, but obstacles can be there with this placement. Why? It's the natural 6th house, it's Virgo. And for this reason, rising in life is also slow, right? It doesn't really happen until after mid-30s. Stomach issues such as indigestion can arise with this placement. So improving your diet is important. Simplify it, right? Simplify your diet, especially if this placement is in your 1st, 2nd, 6th, and 8th house. Be respectful towards young girls. For instance, sponsor education of young female children. That's a good remedy for this placement. The karmic lesson here involves learning to accept imperfection. Be kind to yourself and others. So, Saturn in Libra is 9th from its Multiple house in its trinal place, which is very fortunate. And of course, Saturn in Libra is Saturn's exalted position. Venus is the ruling planet, so Venus's position needs to be seen here to determine the results, right? Now, air signs are logical, which is required to judge objectively, right? And Saturn being the ultimate judge in our chart. So this is also a good position for that reason. This placement will make you organized, disciplined. It will also likely make you well-known and perhaps even popular. So perhaps even well-liked. This placement can make you good with people, good in business, charming. You can have a reputation of being fair and just with others. And so you're respected for that reason, perhaps, right? You can be drawn to philanthropy at some point in your life, helping the underprivileged. You're fair, but you're not imposing on others. You will elicit respect and support from others easily, and this way you can be well known and popular. You're good at compromise and solving problems. You can be a good lawyer. You're clever in getting what you want. Till your 40s, you have to work a lot, especially if you have Saturn in the Kendra houses. It's a good placement for material and social stability. Relationships, however, can be difficult with this placement. They can feel burdensome. It can be where you have to show humility towards a partner, right? You will attract older partners, or you can experience immense delay in finding a good relationship in your life, which is somewhat similar to Saturn and Taurus. Yeah. Early life, not until after midlife, you will experience like a healthy, balanced, loving relationship. Right? Saturn represents debts from previous lives, and in this case, it will happen through relationships. There's difficult relationship karma with this placement. It may be that you marry more than once, especially this is the case if you marry early in life. I've seen that in many charts. So if this is an afflicted Saturn, or even if Venus is badly placed, then you will need to be careful about the sort of activities that you will indulge in relationships, right? And with others. You're good at cultivating relationships, especially business relationships. This is the case with all Saturn placements in air signs, particularly Libra, right? You tend to attract wealth, and you place an importance on money matters, similar to Saturn in Taurus, which makes you practical in relationships as well, including marriage partner. So you can be quite calculating with your affections as well, right? Status in relationship is also important to you. How are you being perceived by others? That's also important to you. The relationship that you do get into, if it's after Saturn's maturity, which is 36 to 39, then it will be enduring, right? You tend to place high value on commitment, and you don't like to indulge in short-term flings. Keeping notes of the give and take between both people is not particularly romantic. So here you can be very calculating in relationships. This placement will make you consistent, which is a positive quality in relationships. The karmic lesson is to assert yourself while you maintain harmony. So, Saturn in Scorpio. This position is 10th from a smooth tricone sign of Aquarius, which makes it a good position for Saturn. It's a water sign. It makes one emotional, where Saturn is a cold and slow planet. And Saturn doesn't really do well in water signs, right? So making this a difficult place for Saturn. This is fixed water sign, and therefore you can be intensely committed to a plan. It's hard for you to let go, take things lightly. I think it's slightly better positioned though than Saturn and Aries. They're both ruled by Mars. But here, there's a lot of unresolved karma, right? Because Ketu is also co-ruler of this sign. Therefore making it very difficult for you to let go and take things lightly. You can also surprise people with your sudden reactions, sudden emotions, sudden actions, right? Here you can have very strong likes and dislikes, and this can make you rigid. And you can impose this rigidness on others as well. You can see deep into matters, and you can see others' motives fairly easily. This can make you strategic. It makes you mentally strong as well. It can, however, make you stuck in your ways and controlling. Saturn here is in its enemy sign, Mars and Ketu being the rulers. So this is a karmic signature. It can bring past life negative deeds in the form of swift, sudden events. Fundamental changes can happen in the areas that are ruled by Saturn. This placement gives a lot of fear and anxiety. Saturn is already a Garaka for death and fear, right? So here it feels even more burdened in that way. And of course, we're talking about Scorpio. This is the sign of transformation. But you know, the fixed element of Scorpio will give you that ability to persevere and work hard. The intensity of Scorpio and Mars makes you very committed to your cause, whatever it is, whatever you decide that you're going to do in life. You tend to be very committed and persevering. Of course, it does depend on the position of Mars too, so you have to see that. This will dictate how this placement will function. In the area of your work, you can see many changes, and this can come about in ways that you had not expected. This placement can bring struggles in career before mid-30s. Here, Saturn can give chaotic and somewhat eccentric results. It can make one depressed and anxious, especially if there's no benefit. Benefit drishti aspect on this Saturn, right? You can be secretive. You can be a loner with this placement. Others may find it difficult to understand you. You can, however, be very good at understanding esoteric subjects. If you have difficult Mars and Ketu placements, you may resent others and have lost your faith in others due to difficult challenges in life. Right? You can be intense, and you can take extreme actions to reach your goals with this placement. Releasing attachments is important. With this position, you can get stuck with negativity in your mind and vengeful thoughts toward others. It's hard for you to let go, and this will impact your relationships. You will at some stage in your life be given a powerful position of authority, right? So if you abuse it, then it can result in very, very challenging karma. That can swiftly disrupt your life in some way. You can inherit from family with this placement. It could be an ancestral home, for example. The karmic lesson involves learning to trust and release attachments and confront your fears. Right? Sagittarius, you have Saturn in Sagittarius. Well, this is a decent position. It's in Jupiter's sign. Jupiter and Saturn have a neutral relationship. It's 11th from its Muldragon sign of Aquarius. It will give hurdles in completing higher education and getting a degree. This position. It may give an inclination toward religion and extremist views earlier in your life. In your early years, you can be dogmatic, judgmental, narrow-minded. But the true understanding will come later in life, after Saturn's maturity. Yeah. You may have problem with believing in something that you don't see. So faith is not there. Faith is not strong in the early years as well. It's a good placement for a lawyer or any occupation where you have to assert the rule of law. Sagittarius rules old age, and a dignified Saturn placement means growing old in a graceful way. So here you will likely look more mature than your age, and your mentality is also more mature than your peers. You're concerned with higher principles, thoughts, giving respect for traditions. If Jupiter is well placed, then this placement gives a quest for knowledge, learning of rituals, customs, scriptures. It can make you a strategist, good at conquest. Because it's a fire sign, you don't believe in something unless you have been shown that evidence. If Saturn is getting a benefic aspect, then this is a combination that gives a great interest in religion and in philosophy. You can be a good teacher with this placement, employed in educational institutes. This placement can also make you involved with social service, and it can give you a tendency to be attracted to social movement, to social causes. You will have to make your own path and your own luck in life. It will not likely be handed to you. Later in life, you can become ritualistic and religious and influenced by your family and their beliefs and their traditions. However, you will likely explore different religions, different philosophies than the ones that you're born into, right? Going to spiritual pilgrimages is very beneficial for this placement. It can bring sudden ups and downs in life. It's a good placement for doing your own business. Because it gives good planning and good organizational skills. It can make you good with research. And this is especially the case if Jupiter is well placed in your chart. You're good at learning from others' mistakes with this Saturn placement. And if you have a guru, this placement can free you from the blocks that come with it. The karmic lesson here is to learn to seek out truths on your own and trust your own authority. So what about Saturn in Capricorn, its own sign? Saturn in Capricorn, this placement is 12th from its Muldragon, so it can come with some challenges. It is, however, in its own home in Capricorn. This is the signature for slow and steady gains in life. In initial years, you'll have to struggle as Saturn aspects 4th house from here, right? It brings delays in success with relationships, with wealth creation. This position will bring late marriage, and married life can also feel burdened at times. Success will come later as well, mid to late 30s, where you feel like you're getting return on your efforts, right? Before, like you can be working hard, but you just don't see that return. It's not proportionate to your work. Saturn in Capricorn will make you very motivated to obtain status and titles in your career, in your life, in your city, in your community. You basically want to be seen as an important person that contributes to society, right? Status will be acquired. It can come through marriage as well, or it can be due to the family you come from. There can be immense fear related to losing this status that you're born with or that you've acquired. This position of Saturn can make you structured and disciplined, and that will lead to success in life. You're aware of hierarchies, social, political, legal, all of it. Right? And you like to work in positions of power and authority. You like routine, you like stability. Here you may need to take responsibilities for others, especially in your career. You may feel burdened. You may feel imprisoned with this placement at times. Depends on what is it ruling in your chart? What does Saturn rule in those areas? You can struggle with fear of failure. You can struggle with workaholism, like working too much. There's a deep-seated fear of poverty with this position also. It's difficult for you to work for others, and you may not get along with your bosses or your superiors because you don't like to be told what to do. It can also be the case that you may be treated unfairly at the workplace and not given the rewards that you need. This will get easier after the mid-30s. Saturn being in an earth element, you'll be able to acquire wealth and assets later in life. You may be too focused on status and titles, right? You can be uncompromising and rigid in the ways that you perform activities. Strong Saturn can make you overly attached to material possessions. Giving away what you don't need is good rather than hoarding things. Very much so, and it's like a good remedy for this one. This applies to all, this actually applies to all of the earth placements of Saturn, right? Saturn in Virgo, Saturn in Taurus can also do that. Most of the classics say that this placement gives gains from women. Perhaps your close relationships with women, spouse, of course, especially land, especially inheritance. Capricorn Saturn will help you improve your physical stature as well. So physical activity is important. It's a good remedy to bring out the better qualities of this placement. Anxiety and fear with respect to your material conditions persists with this placement. You can feel uptight regarding your work, your financial situation. Consider seva, providing service to others, donating to others even, to decrease that attachment to the material life. Aquarius, Saturn in Aquarius. So this is Saturn's Mudra sign, right? It's a place where you will see Saturn perform very well, especially in the first degrees, the first 20 degrees of the sign. Saturn is here in its own element in air. The Saturn placement will continuously push you out of your comfort zone to try new things, to connect with different people, to connect with different places. It will just continuously push you out of your comfort zone. It connects with Rahu through co-lordship. So getting out of your comfort zone with your life, taking weighted risks will be rewarded, actually. You may also enjoy experimenting, and you'll get bored if things are too predictable. So in this way, you push yourself to experience new things, right? You're a perfectionist, and you don't like to settle for crumbs, even if it means slogging hard. Here you can have prolific social circles. Social climbing can be seen here. Your career will actually flourish if you do experience that Saturn Dasha. During that Saturn Dasha. You can be egotistical with this placement, and you can also be self-centered in your approach to life. You're a late bloomer. Early years, you can feel awkward. You may feel like no one understands you. Or you yourself don't get along with many people. That could also be there. You seem to be against societal norms, so you don't tend to fit in easily with others. And in fact, you can feel like an outcast until later in your life. By connecting with people, you minimize fear and anxiety. Though you can be quite calculating about whom you connect with, right? So you can be a die-hard rebel with this placement, participating in many social causes. In fact, you're very much attracted to social causes and getting involved in them in some way, right? You can also reject society entirely and rebel against outdated traditions. And this can lead to isolation. But you don't mind. You don't mind being alone. Saturn in Aquarius can make you a good influencer. Like you can change society's ways of thinking with your actions somehow, which is very powerful, right? So it's a good placement that will push you to build. Long-term planning is good with this placement. It's a good placement for having friends and networks in the right places. You tend to know whom to connect, whom to contact to get your work done. And this way it can make you very resourceful. Career growth through powerful connection is there. You can work in large organizations, humanitarian organizations. You can benefit from this. This placement gives skill in technologies and in innovations. Higher education is favored with this placement as well. You're good at planning, organizing, getting people together. The karmic lesson is to learn to contribute to the greater good of society while maintaining your identity. All right, so Saturn in Pisces, if you have this, it's a little bit similar to Saturn in Sagittarius, because it's not till later in life, that like till Saturn's maturity, that you will move towards faith and move towards spirituality. Earlier in your life, you can reject this. Here, Saturn can give isolation due to relationships, people that have let you down. Right? So you're like, you just close yourself off from the world and you isolate. You'll have a lot of anxiety, and you can imagine the worst case scenario in situations and with people as well. There can be fear with many things. This can be a result of a difficult childhood or memories of struggles in past lives. You tend to take on more than your share of responsibilities with this Saturn in Pisces. As a result, you gain respect later in life and you become well known with others, including your family, including your social circles. You're good with long-term planning, ability to think ahead. If you have a strong Jupiter in your chart, then this is a placement that will help you to expand your wisdom. If Jupiter is afflicted, then this placement can result in overthinking, muddled thinking, seeing the worst case scenario. You can have strange dreams with this placement. You can have escapist tendencies and a lack of belief in yourself, in others. Important to cultivate faith, because this is Jupiter's house, right? Pisces. So this is an important remedy, a good remedy. You can at times think that you're one step ahead of others, and this can give you an edge. Saturn here will help you open up new doors to new connections. With this placement, if you do your daily affirmations, mantra japa, any spiritual practice, the power of manifestation is very strong. Any type of meditation can just get rid of that excess thinking, right? Excess thinking, excess imagination. Thinking the worst case scenario. You can have a rich imagination, and you're natural with spiritual practice, so this is very beneficial for you, including like retreat, like accessing higher power, that kind of thing. You appreciate solitude, seclusion, nature, being in nature. And you have the ability to stay alone for long periods of time. Working in hospitals, NGOs, charitable causes, big organizations. That's where you can achieve success. You're good at both a traditional, structured education as well as self-learning. Excellent position for teaching, providing guidance. You're a good judge of character, and you can assess others quickly and easily. You have the ability to uncover people's deeper layers. Living outside your home country is good for you, and it can bring material benefits. You're sensitive. You can suffer needlessly, sacrifice yourself to save others. You may overcompensate by rejecting love and human connection, though. Right? Because there's a feeling that I'm the giver all the time. Right? So you just retreat. The karmic lesson here is to love unconditionally. And at the same time, respect yourself, right? So finding that balance, right?